Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. He cautiously surveyed his surroundings. When he was certain he was alone, he began to move slowly. At this moment, a golden gourd bottle sailed through the air. The black figure stayed close to the ground. He hid his aura when he saw the golden gourd. After the golden gourd disappeared, he looked up. He had underestimated the power of the evil sky pavilion. He could sense powerful energies barring his routes of escape in all directions. The back of the mountain was the only option left for him. The black figure suppressed his surging qi and blood as he could before he picked up pace. At this moment, Yuan'er, who was sitting with his legs crossed and eyes shut, as he adjusted his condition, moved his ears. Who's there? Swoosh. The figure entered the barrier and moved to Yuan'er's side. Jiang Liang stayed in the divine capital most of the time. He would only leave when he was on a mission. He knew a thing or two about the evil sky pavilion. Unfortunately, he did not know the person before him. He had assumed since the man before him was imprisoned here, the man must be an enemy of the evil sky pavilion. Don't make a sound. Otherwise, you'll die. Jiang Liang held one hand against his chest as he looked at Yuan'er. A suspicious expression appeared on his face as he probed the man before him. He could not sense any primal qi from the man, causing him to relax. Comrade, you're hurt. Yuan'er's voice was as gentle as usual. Jiang Liang frowned deeply and said, "You're captured by the evil sky pavilion?" "That's right," Yuan'er answered honestly. "Why didn't you run away?" Jiang Liang asked. "Run away?" Yuan'er shook his head and said with a smile, "If I could, I would have done that a long time ago. Why would I have to wait until now?" Jiang Liang nodded. "Looks like I've underestimated the evil sky pavilion, after all." Yuan'er was just about to stand up when Jiang Liang interjected in a deep voice, "Don't move. Are you afraid? I've alerted many elites of the evil sky pavilion. Any movement will catch their attention now. If I die, I'll take you with me," Jiang Liang said. Yuan'er looked at the night sky outside and said, "You want to kill me?" Jiang Liang appraised Yuan'er again. The moonlight fell upon Yuan'er's face. Jiang Liang thought that Yuan'er looked gentle. He said, "I'm only trying to save my own skin. Don't resent me for this. There's no need to be afraid, comrade. If this had happened in the past, you wouldn't have lasted a single breath before me," Yuan'er said. Jiang Liang frowned again. He scoffed before he said, "If it weren't for my injuries due to my carelessness, I'm confident I'll be able to escape." Yuan'er shook his head. "You're underestimating the evil sky pavilion." "What do you mean?" "Even if I have my cultivation base, it'd be impossible for me to escape this place, let alone someone like you," Yuan'er said calmly. Jiang Liang, naturally, disagreed. "Speak for yourself. Overconfidence and conceit are the downfall of men." Yuan'er recalled his master's words. It seemed like master's words made sense. Jiang Liang looked outside alert, as he said flippantly, "A lowly prisoner like you can't compare to me. We can't even be mentioned in the same breath." Yuan'er smiled and rose to his feet. "I'm sorry. You've picked on the wrong person." Yuan'er's words were simple. Jiang Liang was baffled by Yuan'er's words. Yuan'er took a step forward. Jiang Liang lunged. His dagger gleamed coldly in his hand. At this moment, Yuan'er drew his sword, unsheathing the longevity sword. He brought it up in a 45-degree upward motion. Whoosh! The sword was sheathed again. The series of movements flowed smoothly and naturally like water. The battle had ended. Clack! Jiang Liang's dagger broke in half. One half dropped to the ground, the remaining half was still in his grasp. His eyes were brimming with terror. He felt that his sea of qi had been pierced. Moreover, he felt as though his lower left abdomen to his right shoulder had been slashed. There was a slender cut that crossed his sea of qi and was slowly spreading. The person did not use primal qi at all. Did he manage that with his physical strength alone? Jiang Liang turned to look at the longevity sword at the side. It emitted a faint red glow before it disappeared. It was clear that the sword was an extraordinary heaven-grade weapon. Yu Shangrong shook his head with slight dissatisfaction. Under normal circumstances, you would have died instantly. I'm sorry to draw out your pain. Blood stained his clothes. Jiang Liang said, if I hadn't been heavily injured. You couldn't have touched me. If you weren't injured? Yu Shangrong only smiled faintly. He returned to his original spot and sat with his legs crossed before he closed his eyes to rest his spirits. He no longer spoke after that. Jiang Liang's life was seeping away. With a thud, he slumped to the ground. The instant his sea of qi was cut open, he no longer had the ability to conjure up his primal qi. On top of that, he was injured. He could only wait for his death now. He was not content with this outcome. When he was on the brink of death, he looked at Yu Shangrong who was sitting cross-legged across from him. He asked, who are you? I'll remember the name of the person who kills me. Yu Shangrong opened his eyes slightly and glanced at Jiang Liang. He smiled faintly again. My name is Yu Shangrong. Jiang Liang chuckled inwardly. If he wasn't injured? Now he knew that nothing would have changed even if he weren't injured. If he were not injured, and Yu Shangrong had access to his cultivation base, he would have died in a gruesome manner. At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Jiang Liang's head. Whether it was regret, desperation, or a chance to escape, none of those mattered now. Before he breathed his last breath, he uttered his final word, good. His head lolled to the side, and he breathed no more. The night was still, and the moonlight was enticing. After an unknown period of time, the moonlight shone into the cave of reflection again. Yu Shangrong's long hair was now half white. Yu Shangrong opened his eyes slowly. He lowered his head and looked at the hair on his shoulders. He was not shocked by it. He closed his eyes again. There was a huge wave of energy outside the cave of reflection. Sometime later, a voice rang from outside the cave. The voice was sharp and clear. Second senior brother. Yu Shangrong smiled faintly and said, little junior sister. He stood up slowly, picked up his longevity sword, and walked out of the cave of reflection. Little Yuan was standing outside the cave under the moonlight. She had been happy, but when she saw Yu Shangrong's silver hair, she was shocked and worried. She said, second senior brother, your hair, I'm all right. Yu Shangrong walked up to little Yuan. He looked up at the starry sky and moon with its gentle glow. Then, he shifted his gaze to little Yuan. You seem to have grown taller. Little Yuan giggled. Well, it's only natural for people to grow. Yes, people grow, Yu Shangrong said. The 3 elders and 4th senior brother are messing around. I had nothing else to do so I decided to visit you, little Yuan said. At this moment, Wuya was flying across the sky with his 7-leaf avatar and 6 compatible seal. When he sensed some movement at the cave of reflection, he hovered in the air and looked down. Yu Shangrong did not even look up as he spoke, he's dead. He's inside the cave of reflection. Wuya was slightly shocked and made a move to descend. He was shocked when he saw the dead Jiang Liang. He stooped down to inspect the wound on Jiang Liang's body. When he confirmed that it was left by a sword, he was filled with fright. Yu Shangrong's cultivation base had been sealed. Naturally, Wuya knew that Jiang Liang was a nascent divinity tribulation realm elite. Even if he was injured, he was not someone who could be killed by a person without a cultivation base. How did Yu Shangrong manage it? Wuya turned and looked at Yu Shangrong who was backlit by the moonlight. Half of Yu Shangrong had turned white, but his expression remained calm as though nothing was different. Wuya could not make heads or tails out of it, so he decided to give up guessing. He left the cave of reflection for a moment and notified the others to move the body away. When little Yuan saw the corpse, she was also shocked. She said, second senior brother, you killed him? Yu Shangrong nodded faintly. When he returned, Hua Wudao cupped his fists. May I ask, how you killed Jiang Liang, Mr. Second? With a mighty swing of my sword, Yu Shangrong replied nonchalantly. There was no flaw in that answer. Having inspected the wound, Hua Wudao felt now that his question was meaningless. I'm enlightened. Hua Wudao cupped his hands slightly, turned around, and left. Little Yuan gave Yu Shangrong a thumbs up. She giggled and said, That's amazing, second senior brother. Second senior brother, just how amazing are you? That question stumped Yu Shangrong. After giving it some thought, he replied honestly, I'm just slightly less amazing than master? Slightly less? Well, maybe a little more. So, which is it? Little Yuan looked at him, clearly not planning to give up until she had her answer. That's not important. Yu Shangrong walked away from the moonlight and went under the shadows of the trees. This view reminded little Yuan of a certain person. Hence, she said, second senior brother, sixth senior sister's hair is actually whiter than yours. Yu Shangrong turned around and said, Yi Tianxin? When little Yuan thought about Yi Tianxin, she became dejected. She said, senior sister Tianxin has it rough. Alas, she's been driven out by master. Yu Shangrong smiled. That kindness of yours is rare, little junior sister. Thank you, second senior brother, little Yuan said. Yu Shangrong noticed that something was not right with her clothes. He asked in confusion, is the cloud feather raiment not good? No. It's great, but master won't let me wear it. He says that it's getting in the way of my improvement and cultivation base, little Yuan replied. Master's right. Little Yuan said proudly, I've made some huge improvements lately. Second senior brother, let's spar. I couldn't even touch you back then, but I'm sure that I can now. Yu Shangrong. Before he could reply, a 10-foot avatar appeared behind little Yuan. It was as quick-witted and cute as its owner. Yu Shangrong regarded the avatar with a slightly shocked expression. He spoke softly, congratulations, little junior sister. She's able to enter the nascent divinity tribulation realm and form 100 tribulations insight avatar in such a short time. She has even sprouted one leaf. Perhaps, in the near future, little junior sister would really be able to reach the top of the cultivation world. Her future is something to look forward to. On the other hand, Yu Shangrong had completely lost his cultivation base. He shook his head. At this moment, an imposing voice rang in the air. Yuan, behave yourself. Little Yuan hastily turned around. She saw her master walking toward them under the moonlight with his hands on his back. She bowed hastily. Master.